The movie opens with a woman named Lisa who appears very upset and is lying in the middle of the street, seemingly intending to end her life. Not long after, a truck approaches, at which point Lisa changes her mind and decides to get up. The driver, whose name is Adam, asks if she's okay, and she assures him that she is. He then offers to give her a ride, since they're in the middle of nowhere and the nearest gas station is miles away. At first, Lisa refuses him, but when the truck proceeds to leave, she soon stops the man and accepts the ride. On the way, the two start chatting, and Adam discovers that she is a foreigner who works as a waitress here. He inquires about her family, and Lisa reveals that she had a daughter who would have been 9 years old today. Upon hearing this, Adam feels the weight of her grief and finally understands why she had intended to unalive herself earlier. Next, Adam also opens up about himself and reveals that he works as a night watchman, which is boring but fine because he doesn't like people much. He also tells Lisa a little about his childhood, which was filled with torment and abuse from his father, and hearing this makes her feel sorry for him. Shortly after, Lisa turns on the radio, where a news reporter is warning about an escaped killer who has already murdered 2 people today. The reporter mentions that he's a white male, drives a brown truck, and has a distinctive tattoo of a cross on his right hand. Upon hearing this, Lisa notices Adam's hand and is filled with horror to see the exact same tattoo. Before the poor woman can react, a bright light flashes in front of them. Adam then slams on the brakes and pushes her head into the dashboard, knocking her unconscious. In the next scene, Lisa wakes up and realizes she's inside a small cubicle with strange lights flickering on the walls. There appears to be no way out, and she notices a peculiar device strapped to her wrist, glowing with a yellow light. The panicked woman screams and claws at the walls in a desperate bid to escape, but her efforts are futile. Soon, a door slides open, revealing a narrow tunnel beyond, so she crawls into the passage just as the door shuts behind her. At this point, the device on her wrist sounds a loud alarm, and a timer appears, counting down from 11 minutes, but she has no idea what it means. With no other option, Lisa moves cautiously through the cramped tunnel while she hears disturbing noises in the distance. She soon finds another opening, only to discover that the next passage is even tighter than the previous one. She moves forward reluctantly, just as the door behind her slams shut. Ahead, she discovers 2 diverging tunnels and chooses the upper one. This passage is filled with changing colors, but then the floor starts to rise, narrowing the corridor around her. Realizing she could be crushed, Lisa moves forward with all her strength and barely makes it out in time to reach the next tunnel. Exhausted, Lisa decides to rest for a moment before continuing her journey. Soon, she comes across a decayed, rotting body that makes her recoil in disgust. As she tries to move it out of the way, she notices that the corpse is wearing a wrist device similar to hers, which fills her with horror. A shaken Lisa continues to move until she reaches a blocked path. Then, out of nowhere, her wrist device changes color, signaling that time is running out and something terrible is about to happen. A flaming tube suddenly appears and a section of the wall opens, revealing a safe space. Lisa scrambles inside just as a glass barrier closes behind her. Seconds later, the tunnel unexpectedly erupts in flames, and she watches in terror. She then deduces that the decayed body she saw earlier had been consumed by the fire. Afterwards, the glass door opens, and Lisa crawls through the narrow tunnel. Her chest tightens when she sees the timer on her wrist device has started again, counting down 11 minutes. Tears stream down her face as she says that she cannot take this anymore. Yet she refuses to give up and presses forward until she reaches a pool of water. Feeling a glimmer of hope, she drinks the water and begins swimming to find a way out. Soon she reaches another tunnel, but begins to panic when the water begins to flood the passage around her. Lisa struggles desperately to escape, and in the water, she comes across another dead body that scares her. Luckily, she manages to find an exit and crawls into another narrow space. The exhausted woman then lies down and drifts into a brief, much-needed nap. Shortly after, Lisa wakes up when she hears someone screaming for help in the distance. She realizes another survivor is out there and moves quickly toward the sound, but she doesn't get very far before a door opens in the floor, revealing a pool of green liquid. Lisa carefully tears a piece of her cloth and dips it in, which quickly begins to burn. Upon realizing that it's acid, she grabs the thin ledge of the tunnel and crawls across to avoid it. Her plan works at first, but just as she is about to reach the finish line, her knee slightly touches the acid, her skin burns, and she cries in pain, but there is no time to waste because the survivor is heard screaming. With this, Lisa resumes crawling forward and soon notices a man at the other end of the tunnel. But before she can approach him, an iron barrier with 3 holes suddenly appears in front of her and the man as well, leaving an open stretch of tunnel between them. The man has long hair and a beard, and she realizes that he has been here for a long time. Lisa begins asking him questions about the place and their situation, but the man seems to have clearly lost his mind and keeps repeating over and over that everyone is going to die. Lisa tries to encourage him not to lose hope and says that they will come up with a plan, but he begins getting aggressive and even calls her a bitch. Moments later, both of their bracelets flare with color, signaling that time is almost up and the flames will soon erupt like before. At this moment, a safe space opens in the tunnel wall, and both of their barriers are lifted automatically. The two then begin struggling over who will enter the safe space, even though it is obvious that both could fit. Lisa ultimately wins the struggle and shoves the man out, and as the glass door closes, his hand is severed from his body. Lisa then notices the hand and is shocked to see a cross tattoo, realizing that the man is Adam. Seconds later, the entire tunnel ignites in flames, and Adam screams in excruciating agony before dying. In the meantime, an exhausted Lisa also passes out, and when she wakes up, she finds herself in the same safe space. Then, to her shock, a skull attached to a mechanical tentacle appears from the ceiling. Lisa worries that it is trying to hurt her, but surprisingly, the skull begins healing her knee wound. Lisa is surprised by the kindness of the machine and realizes that whoever is doing this doesn't want her to die. The skull then suddenly pulses out a tube from its mouth, which it connects with Lisa's suit. As a result, she begins to recall the memory of when Adam was trying to attack her in the truck back then. He had even stabbed her, causing her to fall from the car right when a strange light appeared in the sky. Moments later, the glass door opens and Lisa exits with Adam's hand. She examines the hand and notices 3 markings: a diamond, a cross, and a diamond beneath the wrist device attached to it. Before she can figure out what is happening, a spinning blade appears in front of her, filling her with horror. The panicked woman hurls Adam's hand at it, and it is quickly crushed by the blade. Lisa then hurries away, while the blade rapidly lashes toward her. But before it can cause her any damage, she narrowly escapes into a tunnel above. Lisa then breathes a sigh of relief, but it doesn't last long when, all of a sudden, a zombie-like creature crawls into the tunnel with her and lies still behind her. It only reacts when Lisa moves, which makes her realize that the zombie is blind. However, the terrified woman panics and quickly crawls through the tunnel, while the zombie also begins rapidly following her. It seems like all is over for our protagonist, but at the last moment, she manages to escape by slipping through a narrow path. The zombie also follows her, but its body is too huge, making it unable to pass through and pursue her. We then notice that the zombie appears human but badly burned, with white, glossed-over eyes and a missing arm, hinting that it could be resurrected Adam. Next, the timer on Lisa's wrist device starts again, which sends her into a panic mode. She comes to a section with 2 tunnels to choose from, leaving her confused. She then tries to recall the markings on Adam's arm to work out which one to take. After much deliberation, Lisa chooses the left tunnel and soon hears her daughter's voice, which excites her. She follows the sound and arrives at a bright room where she sees hundreds of memories from her entire life. She notices her dad and her childhood self, which makes her very emotional. Moments later, Lisa sees a memory of her daughter, Nina, which instantly brings tears to her eyes. She watches in horror as Nina climbs a window, then falls and tragically loses her life in an instant. The sight hits Lisa like a ton of bricks, and she breaks down and apologizes to her daughter for not being there to save her. While she's completely lost in her grief, she notices the zombie once again appear above her and try to descend slowly into the room. With no other choice, Lisa begins running away again and soon notices a bright, cloudy sky at the end of the tunnel, giving her a flicker of hope. She desperately crawls forward, but soon comes across a section where the tunnel is lined with razor-sharp wire. Lisa is left horrified and notices the zombie closing in, putting her in a desperate situation. She she decides to take the risk, forcing her way through the wires and severely injuring herself, while her wrist device warns her that time is running out. Unfortunately, even though the escape is literally only a few feet away, a badly injured Lisa cannot move, and right then, a safe space opens again on the wall, but the zombie quickly gets there, after which the glass door closes and the flaming tube appears. Lisa realizes there is no way out for her, so she closes her eyes and prepares to die, but just before the flames hit, the floor unexpectedly opens up and she falls to safety before passing out. In the next scene, Lisa wakes up in a cubicle and is shocked to realize that this is the same place where she first woke up. She then has a grim realization that there is no way out of this place and that she's going to die here. Weakly, Lisa writes the symbols she had seen on Adam's arm in blood on the wall and tries to make sense of it. Just then, the skull attached to a mechanical tentacle appears again and tries to heal her wounds. But she stops the machine, saying that she doesn't have the strength to go on any longer and wants to die in peace. Upon hearing this, the skull agrees and pulls out an injection with its mouth, probably filled with poison. It decides to inject Lisa to give her a less painful death, and she begins wiping the symbols from the wall. Lisa is then shocked to realize she has only partially erased the symbols, and they were not 2 diamonds and a cross, but 6 arrows indicating directions to take. The skull is about to inject her, but Lisa quickly stops it, saying she hasn't given up yet. The skull then heals her wound, after which Lisa is filled with determination and sets out again. This time, she passes each obstacle with ease, having already been this way before. Shortly after, Lisa comes across the green acid again and uses it to melt her bracelet. Once it's off, she notices markings on her wrist, 2 crosses and a diamond, which show her which way to go. The hopeful woman then continues on her journey and soon reaches a point where she must choose between left and right. This time, she follows the markings on her hand and takes the right path. But seconds later, Lisa is found by the ugly zombie again, who wastes no time attacking her. She flees in panic and soon enters a tunnel where gravity pulls from every side, making it impossible for her to control her movements. Lisa struggles to move forward, but she eventually manages to escape and comes across 2 tunnels once again. Suddenly, the wrist device shifts color and begins to emit a sharp beeping sound, prompting her to toss it into one tunnel while she darts into the other. The zombie follows the beeping sound and goes into that tunnel. Shortly after, Lisa comes across a strange organic door that opens into a womb-like chamber. She instantly feels a connection and notices shadowy creatures shifting along the walls. One moves closer, and Lisa surprisingly reaches out to caress it. She exits through another passage and enters a similar room, where she notices her wrist device lying on the floor and a zombie wedged in the doorway ahead. As she carefully retrieves the device, it suddenly triggers an alarm, rousing the zombie, who then begins lunging after her. A terrified Lisa proceeds to run away, but the zombie catches up to her and grabs her leg. She kicks it off with all of her strength, and a safe space opens in the wall, allowing her to dive inside and defiantly flip the middle finger at the zombie. She waits for the fire to engulf the zombie, but this time, the flames don't appear. To her horror, the glass opens again and shoves her back into the tunnel with the zombie. After an intense fight, Lisa eventually overpowers the zombie and slams her foot down onto his skull as the wall presses them together. Soon, the zombie's head is brutally crushed, ending the nightmare once and for all. Next, Lisa uses the markings on her wrist to find her way out, but she soon comes across a toy, which she recognizes as her daughter's. She follows it and soon finds Nina, which overwhelms her with emotion, and the two hug each other. Nina urges her to come with her down the wrong labyrinth path, saying they will be together forever. A worried Lisa keeps watching the timer on her device, but the girl tells her not to pay attention to the time. It seems like Lisa is about to follow Nina, but she stops herself and tells her daughter that she loves her. However, she knows that Nina is not real and that she must leave through the right tunnel. The two hug each other goodbye as Nina says, "I'm proud of you, Lisa. We all are." Following this, Lisa heads to the final tunnel, from which she can see the exit with the bright blue sky. This fills her with immense hope, but to her horror, 3 blades soon begin moving along the path at increasingly faster intervals. A worried Lisa recalls how Nina advised her to ignore the time, so she throws the wrist device away and carefully observes the blade's movements. She realizes that the first blade moves every 4 seconds and manages to pass it unharmed. The second blade moves every 3 seconds, which she also navigates successfully. However, during the third blade, Lisa is horrified to realize that it moves every 2 seconds, making it seem impossible to pass unharmed. But the bright sky ahead motivates her, and she takes a leap of faith and forces herself to try. She almost makes it, but her foot is severed in half, causing her to scream in agony. Despite the pain and loss of blood, Lisa pushes through and crawls toward what she thinks is the exit, only to realize that it's merely a screen showing a video of the sky. Just then, the tunnel begins to fill with the flaming tube, and Lisa begins to cry, saying she did everything that was asked, not knowing she never had any chance of survival. At last, she resigns herself to death and loses consciousness from blood loss. Then, in a shocking twist, the ceiling opens above her and she starts to float toward a radiant light. In the final scene, Lisa wakes up outside on a rock under a bright blue sky. She examines her wounds and is surprised to see that she has fully healed, even her foot. She looks around and is struck by the breathtaking scenery, with a beautiful waterfall nearby. Moments later, Nina appears, and Lisa anxiously asks if she's dead. Nina tells her mother that her body died many times, but she is safe now and has nothing to fear. Lisa asks what she is supposed to do, and the girl simply responds, "Live." The movie ends as the camera pans upward, revealing that they are not on Earth but in a stunning alien landscape.